Next video blog in my lessons of trying to help beginners progress their game into the meta game. Last time I talked about the power of the queen. Um, the queen can be a very powerful piece on the board. Yes, that is true. And one of the quotes that I stated in the last blog post was that the queen's greatest strength is when her power and influence is felt, not seen. For if you see the queen, it's already too late. And I'm going to start off quickly with a game that I played when I was like 13 or 14 in the league matches, back when I was playing for the Wyndham Owls. Like I said, I was 13, 14, I had the white pieces, and I was playing as someone that was in their 40s, I forget who, it was in the Norwich Dons. This will show you, this was a relatively short game. It looked good, like it started off like a normal game and everything, and the person just fell completely to being a victim of my queen, and my forces working together, and a queen, like I was trying to say, is just as strong when it's supported by the other pieces. And this is a perfect example of how you'd want to play. Like, I mean, okay, it's not perfect, it's not top league style chess. It's the type of game that a beginner or an average amateur player would be playing. So those that are better skilled than I don't criticize too heavily, because I do realize this is not 100% accurate on how you would play. But this is a typical game in the skill level that I am teaching towards. And you'll be able to see in this game how much influence and power the queen has, and it's nowhere near the opposition. And there were so many potential threats. Black just couldn't cover them all. So I'm going to click on the play and just let the game go through.
E5, Knight F3, Knight, Bishop, Knight, D3, Bishop, A3, Castle kingside, Knight, A6, Bishop, D6, Bishop, Bishop takes E3, F takes, Bishop G4, Queen, Queen D7, Castle queenside, Rook, King B1, Rook, H3, Bishop H5, G4, Knight, H, Queen, Rook D, Queen, Queen, Bishop G6, Rook, King, Queen, F takes, Queen H8, King, Queen, Queen F7, Queen takes F7, checkmate.
Okay, so it was a quick game, 22 move game, and as you pretty saw, the queen was strong, and it only moved a couple of times towards the start, and then it didn't move again and towards the end until the 19th move. Let's go back a couple of moves. For the entire time, the queen was at H2. It doesn't look like anything is going on. But there is so much potential attack going on. Blacks are under a lot of kingside pressure, and the bishop on a2 is a dagger in the back of king, because the pawn is stuck. And that was really a bad square for the king to stay on, and he really should have moved a lot sooner than that, off that colored square, and then that wouldn't have been so much. This pawn in the middle, e3, is hanging, but him taking that would help me, because my pawn structure is not that great. Like that double pawns are normally bad. They can turn good if you get to push them up. But I have my working queen attacking his bishop, and if he moved his bishop out anywhere else, I got the threat on the h7. And like I said, the queen's power, there's so much potential power here and so much potential threat. This is where the queen is the absolute strongest. And when the queen comes to takes h7, this is where the phrase comes in. When you see the queen, it's already too late. It's all over from this point. Basically, he didn't have to move the king to. He didn't have to take the rook, but he was so far behind on pieces that he was like, he could have moved the king to e7 and then queen takes the pawn. This pawn wouldn't be able to take the rook then, because the pawn was pinned, or would be pinned. And then there's other variations that could have gone, but it was. This is the point that is saying, once you see the queen come up, you know you're in trouble. It's the end. He took the rook, which was a mistake. That cost him the game, basically. Queen, king comes
king
up.
e7, queen takes.
So yeah, that's the version. I mean, queens. Everyone likes to win with a good, strong queen attack. Everyone knows how to play, and everyone knows that it's a lot easier to win with your queen than it is without it. So now onto the subject of this video lesson is on how to cope and deal with losing your queen and making a mistake. It's something that people don't always do. If I accidentally went and did this, queen to, one second, like,
queen f7.
Like, instead of taking the queen, if I went and did this,
queen,
as white, yes, it looks pretty bad right now, I admit, but would you know what to do? Would you be able to carry on? Would you be able to fight on without your queen, without just giving in there, right there and then? You still have a rook, you still have a knight, and you still have a bishop, and you have a few more pawns than him. You at least could try and go for a draw here, or you could try and peg out for a draw. But I mean, don't get me wrong, it's going to be hard from this position to get a win or a draw, but it's not impossible. And the frame of mind when you come across and make a mistake like that is how you win and lose the games. So let's jump to it. Hi there, so we've continued on to the Chessmaster program and continuing with the lesson on how to deal with losing your queen, your most powerful piece. Most people, when you lose the queen, will just give up right there and then because they don't know how to win without their queen. Now, when you come about losing your queen, it's often not by design. You lose it by accident, by being overconfident or making a mistake. Now, here's the position that I prepared for you. Black has a reasonable kingside attack going. Black's king's kind of exposed, but he has 2 knights on the king side, coming down on the queen side, coming on the king, with the queen on c7 and coming looking dangerously at h2. Black probably wants to get the bishop to d6 and, cause some major havoc there. White has got some attacks going on their knights by the queen and such. White's pawn structure is reasonably okay compared to Black's, so okay. Now as White, they'll be tempted to go for the checks, and if you notice, there's a nice little fork White can play. Looks really nice at first sight.
Queen
to d4 check, winning the rook and making the king move.
It's a trap!
Yep, that's right, it's a trap. Go ahead. Black would reply by putting the queen in front of it. White can't have it. Oh no. I beg your pardon, I made the wrong move. King
e7
to that. And White goes, great, free rook.
Queen.
So, do you see the danger yet?
It's a trap!
Bishop to
Bishop g7
to g7, and the queen's trapped. The queen is lost no matter what she does. It was a sacrificed rook for the queen. But this entirely is not so bad. Okay, you lose your queen, but White is exchanging a rook, 2 rooks for a queen. Now, the rule of thumb is when a piece is trapped, don't fall to pieces. Don't just ultimately give up and surrender, because you never know what happens. The other player may make a mistake and you can come back. Now, if a piece is lost, no matter what you do, you're going to take it. It's going to get taken. You might as well get something for that piece. So, White's going to lose that queen. So, I could take the bishop, get the check, or I could take the pawn, or I could take the other rook. If I took the bishop though, knight would take the queen. If the queen took the pawn, bishop takes the queen. If the queen moved anywhere else, it would be taken. So,
Queen take
rook, and White has exchanged the queen, which is worth 9 points, for 2 rooks.
Queen.
So, although White no longer has a queen on the board, White still looks pretty strong compared to Black. Okay, he has a queen and a bishop and 2 knights, but I have, as White, 2 rooks, a solid pawn defense, and a knight and a bishop. Now, normally, since White has more pawns, you would want to swap the pieces off to end up with the advantage of having more pawns. but black has more pieces than white does. In a sense, the position of where the queen is for black is going to depend. It's going to determine how strong or how good that queen is. Right now, where that queen is not doing anything because it's blocked in by its own pieces. It's going to require another move to go back to where it was just to do any harm. So, and to immediately stop that threat, white can go ahead
F4,
and do this and start attacking the pieces with his pawns. Now black has to go back.
knight,
You see, the only thing that happens when you lose your queen is that you just got to take your time and think more, because you're on the ropes. To be honest, right now, black is behind in value on points, even though that he has a queen compared to 2 rooks. Now, a bishop is normally stronger in the open game, but it's still fairly close as well. So black could go ahead and swap the knight for the bishop and double up his pawns to mess up his pawn structure. But it's white's move next.
bishop,
Well, no, let's do something better. There's really no point white taking that knight, because knights on the rim are dim, and this is a fairly good bishop compared to a very low quality knight. And if you notice, it's almost stuck except for one square. So we can stop the knight from being able to retreat
E5,
by pushing the pawn. It's preventing black from opening up, or preventing the possible moves that black has. So now, instead of nothing in the way, white has now 2 pieces in the way. This pawn is defended by the rook, so black can't even take it. So let's see, let's get the queen back into the game.
queen,
Now, white would be best to get the rooks in the central
rook
position.
A,
White is not forced to do anything. White has time on his side here. White has the opportunity to wait and let black come on to him. So, white just moved. It's black's move. There's really not a lot that black can do here. He could try to separate those pawns by...
G5,
Now if he takes back... Oh no, he can't even do that, even because he would lose the knight. See, if your pawn goes up, this knight loses the only protection that it has. So black can't even do that.
B5,
So the whole point of that scenario is, even though you lose your queen, and it wasn't by design, you still have a strong chance of pulling together and winning. Just because you lose your queen doesn't mean you've lost the game. You just gotta know how to fight with your knuckles and feet and get down and dirty. Alright, back to the other lesson. Okay, well, with the exercise about to do with my lesson of how to cope with the loss of the queen, if you haven't seen, I already posted the written version of the blog, and you can go ahead and read it about it now. I'm going to demonstrate with a game that I'm currently playing. This is the analyze board version of it. It's not this isn't the live The game's still going, it hasn't ended, but I'm gonna use it to demonstrate a couple of the subjects that I brought up in my blog. Okay, so the one of the things that I suggest is when you're starting out to learn how to look ahead, you use the scenario 6 by 6. 6 likely scenarios, and then go 6 moves deep from the starting point of that scenario. And then whenever you or your opponent makes the move, have replace that move played with what would be the next move 6 moves down. And you would know what that is if you actually think about it and look ahead. Now, right now, my pawn took the first piece off the board, first pawn of the board on d5. So, what's my plan here? What's going on in my head? Well, I'm gonna explain exactly what I'm thinking as I'm thinking it while I'm studying the board. Before I made the move, this was the position. He just pushed his pawn onto the bishop. Now, to me, I'm acknowledging that he's attacking my bishop, and I have only got one square to go to. It's b3, and then he would either bring his knight to the side to try and win the bishop off, but that really doesn't do anything, and it makes a particularly strong knight. It turns it into, basically my bishop is not really valuable because it's not doing anything, it's not able to do anything, and he's getting rid of a perfectly good knight for a pretty poor bishop. So, and what's more is I'm thinking if I let him take that, which I'm gonna lose in exchange, then his pawns are doubled up on the side. The other way I could do it is, sometimes I do the sacrifice exchange. A piece is worth 3 pawns, so I take the 2 pawns and just go 1 pawn down in the exchange. The reason why I like doing this is because when I have the knight on the square, I have a good attack on the basically the bishop squares and the squares in front. My knights look more threatening when they can get to those squares. Also, what I am seeing is I got my knight on the side here. It's supported by the bishop. I'm expecting him to at some point to push the pawn on to attack my knight to push it away, because it can be pretty uncomfortable with a knight sitting on these particular squares. Also, right now, the black has a really potential weakness, which is the e5 square, because the only thing that's guarding that square is his knight on c6. So if I could get the knight to this square, or a good piece like a rook or a queen, it would be really good, because the only other piece that could come out and attack that square is the bishop. Also, what I'm thinking about is another scenario is like his king is pretty much stuck in the open, and it would be nice if I could get a good potential attack on the king's side for him to worry about, instead of worrying about him coming down on my queen's side. I do notice the diagonal is exposed on my h2 pawn. He could put the queen on to c7 and follow it up with the bishop on d6, and that looks pretty threatening. Then he could, after he pushes the knight away, my knight would have to retreat, and thereby he can bring the knight to g4 and reverse the situation onto me, and then eventually castle himself. So that's 4 scenarios. The other potential is I wanted to think about putting my bishop onto f4 at one point, to stop him bringing his bishop onto d6. Try to prevent him doing that attack on my h2 before it even gets off the ground. He would have to settle with winning his bishop to e7 to castle. His position looks kind of cramped compared to my good strong defense of my pawn structure. So the only thing that right now that I have to concern myself with is this bishop on the side. So I went ahead and like I've explained before, the potential is sometimes better than actually implementing it. So the way that I'm seeing the last scenario and the one that I went with is pawn takes pawn. It attacks the knight and it also attacks the pawn on e6. If he goes ahead and takes my bishop, I get the knight back for it. His pawns are doubled on the side and look horrible. And he has an isolated pawn on c5 then, and he loses a knight. His other piece is still at home, not able to do anything, and it'd be pretty much trapped by his own pieces. And he hasn't castled yet, while I have. I also looked at this scenario, the variation. So instead of that possibility, right, that's my move. So I've got to look at all the moves that he could do in reply to this. Now, what he could do is he could take the pawn with his knight on f6 and exposing an attack on my knight with his queen. The knight is protected, so it's not really much of a threat, but it's something that I've got to be thinking about just to make sure that I don't go ahead and push to f4 and forget about my knight handing. I did decide that if he goes and takes with the knight, I would take back. His best move would have to be to recapture, because he would go a whole piece down if he didn't. So with the pieces off the board, the position would be like this, and my next move would be rook in the middle. Again, a good centralized position in the middle. The entire time the entire time the threat is on the king, but he still has a threat of attack on my bishop, so I've still got to keep that in mind. And then what we have to do is, okay, let me go back because it doesn't, I should do the proper move just so you can see the move count. Knight takes knight. So after going 3 moves in, the next 3 moves I anticipate is bishop to here, went into castle and attacking my knight, which is a potential problem, because now he's secure his castle. He can go ahead and castle after I move my bishop. But for some reason I'm seeing a really nice attack here, and I really do like it a lot. Now this is an example of how powerful the queen is, because I see a really good strong attack with my queen here, and I can stop him from castling, and if he's not careful he could end up in checkmate. And I can also support my knight with 2 pieces in exchange for potentially sacrificing the bishop on the side. The entire time it's still there, still under attack. But I believe that my play, if it goes move to move, that I'll win. So 3 moves in, my queen, oops, beg your pardon. I want to bring my queen out to here. Now what does this do? Black is under a threat of checkmate with the knight supporting the queen on f7. If black went ahead and castles, queen can take h7 and it's checkmate. If black is not able to take the knight because the bishop is still pinned, so effectively that piece is non-existent. It's useless. Now I struggle to see what the best move is here at this point. For black, I struggle because I see a lot of potential moves, but I honestly don't see a way on how he's going to stop my attack. The only thing I can see him stopping the checkmate on f7 is pawn to g6. All I have to do then is bring my queen to h6, and it's all over pretty much because I'm behind his lines. His king cannot move, his bishop can still not take, and the only thing that he can do or risk doing is how somehow getting the knight into the game. Like, if that knight was on f5, it can protect that g7 square. Now I see it taking 2 moves for the knight to get to that square, from c6 to d4, and then finally to f5 to attack the queen. Now can black get away with it? Okay, so black's move is queen knight to d4, sorry. Queen to g7. Sorry, the reason why I'm getting delay saying the moves is because I'm still thinking of the next move ahead in my head, and it's a little bit hard to catch up with my thinking of what I'm trying to say to you. So the knight d4, queen to g7. He can't immediately go to f5, because if it does, it's checkmate on f7. He has to bring the rook to f8 to protect from the mate. And then when you do that, knight goes to h7, attacking the rook, and that is game over, because there's no way he can stop the checkmate then. Okay, so from that move that I did, e4 to d5, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I got, as you can see, 6 moves ahead. And even at this position now, 6 moves ahead, I have another 6 moves that I'm planning to do. And constantly, I swear to God, I am looking for his best answers. I want to know, how can he stop my attack? So I know when he plays it, I know what to expect. And if he plays anything else, I know it to be a mistake, or it's something that I could have overlooked. But I have experience enough to know what's what. Now, what I'm saying is, what I try to say in my head without moving the pieces, is if he goes ahead and does this, queen goes to g7, he has to go there to protect the rook and stop the checkmate. Knight takes h7, and then there's nothing he can do to protect that rook from checkmate. Yes, there is. Okay, so that is not totally dead after all. If I use the knight to take the h7 pawn, then he's going to put the bishop to here, look. Blocks the pin, frees the bishop to be able to move, gives the king an escape square, and it's not checkmate anymore. And the f7 pawn is protected twice, attacked only once. Well, now I may go ahead and take the rook. But if I do that, he's just going to take back with the knight, attack my queen. Queen has to come back to e5, and then he has a whole range of. Oh no, I can't do that. I'm going to lose a bishop. If I don't have an immediate threat, I'm going to lose a piece. Oh, I see how. I think bishop to. No. What's the best move for right after this? I'm seeing bishop to h6 here. Get a really good attack going on the rook, but that really doesn't apply. Because there is a combination of moves here that I am half seeing that would work out, but it's not quite there yet, and it's frustrating as hell. So you gotta let it go. Let me make sure. The knight's protecting the bishop, so that doesn't even work. I was thinking something crazy is like rook takes bishop, pawn takes, queen takes pawn, check, fork in the king. Then bishop comes to g5 check. If that knight wasn't there, it would be perfect. Because, look, knight takes... Queen. Check. No, it's not that perfect at all, actually. I was looking for some kind of sacrifice, and there's none there. Well, there you go. Well, there's my main point of this was to show you that how a player thinks and how it looks at absolutely everything there is and look at the best possible moves. And right now I'm waiting for him to reply to my move, and I've already worked out several possible scenarios as you've seen, and I'm waiting. I'm only on move 10. I'm waiting for the next 8 moves for what he should do to this. And it's how it starts from. Like, I've already got a vision on how to get to his king. I'm sure he's seeing this, so I'm sure he knows my game plan now, so it's going to be even more interesting. Okay. Queens are really nice to have on the board, but they do cause a distraction. They really do, because queens are only as good as the king. Behind every strong, successful king is a strong, intelligent queen. A queen demands her king to be strong, so even without her, he can finish what she started. A good queen doesn't need the credit. Everyone already knows who controls who. And it's true in real life. Everyone knows your wife or girlfriend is the brains behind her boyfriend or husband. So, she only just makes the king or the guy believe that he's in charge without actually being in charge. It's a cool skill. The whole point and the whole reason why people struggle with the king, the queen being off the board, is because a player, a beginner, is so desperate to keep the game simple because they cannot think too far ahead. They can't, they need to keep it simple because they can't understand the game of chess. They can't think that far ahead. It overcomplicates the scenario for them to understand, and that's why it becomes imperative that they keep the queen on, and that's why people do become so attached, mainly beginners, to the queen. Now, the best way to go ahead and practice without your queen is, of course, practice. Okay, so as I said, the best way to learn is to practice playing it without your queen. That way you learn not to become so dependent on a certain piece. I mean, this rule applies to any piece. If you become dependent on knights, play without knights, bishops works. I mean, if you really want to come to be thinking about it, you've got 8 potential queens right there in front of you. Just got to get them to the other end of the board. Easier said than done. But
E4.
Playing like this will make you have to think up new strategies, make you see what's going on without doing too much. There is even an option on Red Hot Pawn to do this. You can set up game starting without anything, and offer up a game to anyone without the queens. I'll go ahead and start this one. Go ahead and play as black. Give the advantage of the first move to whoever takes the game. And if you guys want to offer me a game like this, by all means, I'll play without my queen. You can play with your queen. So I'll start this one. Oh, everybody did players. So I'll go ahead and start that one. And I'll go ahead and make a new one. And this time I'm going to play as black. And I'm not going to play with my queen. And I'm going to leave myself open to anyone that wants to play against me as white. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if anyone takes up those games. And you can do this. You can challenge me to this. Practice. Learn how to win without your strongest piece on the board. Because if you don't, she'll become your weakest. And that's the conclusion on this part of the video. And the video blog. Again, my post is here. This video will be put together and uploaded, and then the video will become available at midnight. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will post another blog sometime next week. I aim to do these when I have off from work. Have fun.